Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Radio. This is episode 8 of Hosting the Hosts. I'm your host of this show, Peter Cimetti, and tonight my guest is Yang Chao, and we're going to be talking tonight about all kinds of stuff. Interviewing indie creators, selflessly promoting, helping them out, all that good stuff. I've been lucky enough to have Yang be so gracious to have me on his show several times. And I figure I'd return the favor. Let's bring him on and also have other people maybe be introduced to this fella because he's a great interviewer and it's a good channel to go to talk about your stuff. Before we get started, I want to say hello to those in the chat. We got Wayne here. What's up, Wayne? And also he says, cup of coffee in the big time. Yeah, macho man. Blake Powell, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us tonight. We got Pops in the house as well. What's up? And we got Yang here too. And Pops, I'll be reaching out to you to book you for September. Is that possible, Pops? I'll reach out to you and solidify a date to have you on for hosting the hosts as well. All right, so without further ado, oh, and hey, there's Cole King. What's up? Without further ado, let's bring on the man of the hour and make sure we give him a proper entrance. Here we go.
And now Wink Wilkinson's Weird World with your host, Wink Wilkinson. Hi, everybody, it's Weird Wink Wilkinson laughing and scratching at you. How's everybody doing today? I got a little bit of a stiff neck. Let me just fix this up. Oh, you got me! Oh, I feel so very weird.
All right, welcome aboard.
Evening, everyone.
How are you doing tonight?
It's been a very long day.
It's been a long day. A good day or a bad day?
Good. Very productive. Got a lot of work done.
Oh, good. Yeah, most people when they say it's been a long day, it's usually in reference to being like a bad day, a lot of fires to put out, but that's good.
Kind of, but it was productive. Fires are out. Started at 6:30 in the morning, so things are good now.
Oh, fantastic. And what's up? Zaid Comics in the house. The Chuck Ho Zaid channel. Hey,
Chuck.
Let's see. And this is, I want to get this out of the way right now. This is a question I've been meaning to ask you for 3 to 4 years. In regards to the name, why the name? Why the 10th century soldier?
Well, it is my name, actually.
Oh.
So I lived in Beijing for about 4 years, and I was given this name, not comics related, but I do Kung Fu. I'm in a Kung Fu family, and my master gave me the name. There, they don't really remember the historical figure, which is interesting that you mentioned him, because nobody remembers the Song Dynasty guy. There's a Beijing opera called Yang Shilong, which is the 10 kids of the Yang family, and it's it's huge there. The communists promote it all the time. It's like back in the day, it wasn't like there was a national army. You would have like these wealthy families. It'd be like Bill Gates would have an army, George Soros would have an army, Elon Musk would have an army. And when it's time to go to war, the president would call them and be like, yo, guys, pony up that army. We're going to war. So this one guy, the Yang family, he was betrayed. And he was kidnapped by the Mongols, and he had 10 sons. And their army was wiped out, and they were like, screw it, we're getting dad back. And they all died, except for Yang Zhao. So that's me. Although really the reason I got named it is because my master thought it was funny. It would be like if you had a Chinese guy fresh off the boat who came up to you and be like, hi, I'm William Tecumseh Sherman. You get some looks. So I started using it, just like making restaurant reservations and stuff. And it ended up becoming kind of a problem because I just put it on all my legal documents. So I had like university transcripts. You have to get a police permit to reside over there. I got it on that. Bank accounts, income tax statements, wedding certificate, divorce certificate, national ID, spouse's national ID. At the end of the day, when I was coming back to the U.S., I really needed to get those university transcripts. You have to get them evaluated, and I only had one piece of paper that had both names on it. So I got real lucky. I found that in the end.
Wow. Wow. Well, that was certainly worth the wait. All I could think of is, you ever see Seinfeld?
Sure.
There's that episode with Donna Chang, and then
Yeah.
George Costanza's mother, Estelle, is like listening to all of her advice because she thinks that she's some kind of wise Chinese person. And then when she meets her, she's like, "You're not Chinese. I've been listening to this girl from Long Island."
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you say that. In my former career that I retired from, I was doing Chinese medicine. So I would
No way.
lecture,
Wow.
and and I still teach, I still lecture, but like I would go down to Brazil, and it's very funny because it got to the point where I got some people who anything you said, like if you said, well, Confucius said, or Lao Tzu once wrote, they would do that. So I just started throwing out Bible quotes and then like being like, and that's in the Analects by Confucius. Yeah, yeah, that was Mengzi, one of Confucius' disciples.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Oh boy, oh boy, man. All right, so now we've got that out of the way. That was a very pressing matter, and thank you for being so nice enough to entertain me on that with an answer. I'm really interested in wanting to know not just why you started your YouTube channel, but also why you went into the direction of wanting to interview creators and have them on your show, especially to help them promote their projects.
Oh, well, I started that early on. So it was around 2019, I would say your boy Zach kind of got me back into comics. And I started reading more indie books by people. I really liked, that's when I got into Alterna books. And so I started making videos. So I used to work in marketing. I did international marketing for like 15 years. But I dipped out around 2010. So it was right before social media became a real marketing force. So I thought, okay, well, they're saying you go on, you get followers, and then they'll buy your book and this and that. And so I just wanted to dip my toe in and figure it out. And then I'm going to blame the interviews on Sweetcast.
Okay, wonder why.
Because one day on Twitter, he said, if somebody wants to talk to you about your project on their channel, you should go do it. So I saw that and like immediately I wrote him back and I'm like, hey, I have a very small YouTube channel. It was only 8 subs at the time. Would you come on and talk about Downcast? And for some godforsaken reason, he chose yes. So I had him on.
You put him on the
And
spot.
pretty much, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, it's his fault for saying that. And then after that, you were guest number 2, actually.
Wow.
So I have no idea why you said yes, but
I have that same kind of philosophy too. Is, well, if I could do it, if I could do the show, if the time works out and the day works out, I don't care if it's someone with like 10 subs or 10,000. If the person seems decent enough, honestly, if you didn't do that interview, I guess with Clint, and I wouldn't have been able to see
yeah.
how you handled an interview, because that always helps me determine too. That's a big factor where if the interviewer person can't really talk, that's going to be tough. But yeah, you did a pretty good job, especially
thanks.
yeah. But it's interesting now because don't you have like 450 subs, right? Something like that. I think I saw that
Somewhere around there.
today. Yeah, so good for you.
435.
Oh,
435.
oh, okay, yeah. Well, good for you. Keep growing that. And if you guys aren't subbed at all, the link is in the description of the show. There's a lot of interviews on there now at this point, man.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I think part of it was the other thing is, the channel is really all about me. So even though I have other people on and talk about their projects, it's really about me. I wanted to learn, well, how do you make a comic? How do you go about getting it printed? How do you do basically everything you need to do. So I always interviewed people like there's no way they're ever coming back. So everything I wanted to know about their philosophies of making comics, I made sure to ask them. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it can go a little awry. Like I remember the first time you were on, I was asking you about what it's like to be a publisher. We sort of started there before we got into the specific books Alterna had at the time, and you kind of got this look on your face like, oh man, this guy's gonna hit me up to publish his book or something. But I never did. but I never did.
I think the look that might have been on my face is where do I start? Because that's a pretty open ended question. It's kind of like how do you run a business? It's like can we be a little more specific? But I think we just went through the whole thing. We ran through the gamut of it, and I think I've been on what three or four times on your channel at this point, something like that. I can't keep track.
Well, by yourself, it's at least four. I think you came on once with Clint during one of the alternate bundle
Perhaps that
promotions.
sounds familiar. Maybe like three or four. It's been years. It's been years, and the past 3 to 4 years are like a blur. But yeah, it's always been a good time, and no matter how many times I've been on there at this point, I find that it's interesting because you always come up with some good questions. It never feels like we're running through the same questions over and over again, and I can't say that for everyone I've ever been on. I mean, I love the fact that I've been on invited on multiple times from a couple different people out there. But sometimes we hit up the same question, not because they forgot, but more to like remind the audience of something. So like if I went on your channel and every single time it was, can you tell everyone who you are and explain everything about, I'd be like, man, this is like the fourth time now.
I mean, I kind of do that, but I like to. I mean, if you've been on before, I like to get it out of the way in the first 5 minutes so we can move on to new stuff.
No, you do it good. Thank you, Jake, and thank you for ordering Alterna, and I'm glad you got your stuff 2 days early. I'm getting caught up with all the back orders, so I'm able to actually get all the stuff out in a normal amount of time. Usually I ship out the next day or the same day if I can help it, but we've had a campaign to fulfill. So it's been a battle, but I'm catching up. I'm almost there. By Friday, everything should be boom done. And then Paul talking about a nice little fun fictional story here in regards to the name, and no problem, pops, no problem. Hey, what's up, Immortal? Okay, so when you handle the interview, do you have anything that you have written down already? Are you following a template or a bunch of questions you already have?
Yeah, I get a number of questions. The worst thing is dead air, and it depends on who it is. Like if you're coming, you've been on enough now, I sort of know how you like to answer questions, and so I'll think of maybe like 4 topics. But then if I can, I try to let the person speak, and then, when they say something interesting that's germane to the conversation, I'll follow up with that. I kind of view it as like if you've ever gone river kayaking. In general, you could just float down with that river, and every once in a while, you just need to stick your paddle in a little bit and move away from the rocks.
You just nudge a bit.
Yeah. Now, the problem is if you have someone who, like, you get a lot of people who've never done interviews before, or they're just super nervous for some reason, or just haven't developed the skill. So in those cases, it's more like, you're on the raging rapids and you're dipping that paddle in all the time. So, as much as I can, I try to know who's coming on and know their work, and I'll try to see what they've said on other interviews, so that
Wow,
if
you
you
do a
said
lot of
something,
research.
I try. If you said something interesting on like Bancroft, or since you have your own channel, I'll watch your last few shows so I can like pick some stuff off of there. I'll do that. The problem comes in when you have someone who has like no media presence, first
Yeah.
time, so like I don't have a book that I can look at. Then it gets hard.
Man, it just I usually fly blind with a lot of it, and I just kind of steer the conversation around as much as I can when I have somebody on the show. I mean, so kudos to you,
Yeah,
man.
well, sometimes you need to. If I think it would be different if I had a larger audience. But having a small audience, you can have a small audience, but you can't have crappy shows. So, that's number one. And number two, I came to it was kind of weird. Like originally, I was asking people who I wanted to learn things from, and then people started finding me, which I thought was very bizarre. But so okay, if you want to come on, sure. But I kind of feel responsibility. Like, well, okay, if they're gonna come, then I have to at least give them, the best that I can. I can't save the good stuff, only for creators with higher followers or higher sales or
Yeah.
anything. And plus, I had the feeling that, there is sort of a hierarchy you move up. Like, not everyone's going to get on Comics Artist Secret to Pro, right? But you sort of have to start in the minor leagues, and I'm the minor leagues. Better that they get on my show and they get a good interview, and then they can, clip that. And then when they want to move on to shows with larger audiences and this and that, people like a Bancroft, they can send you like, hey, here's 30 seconds, and you can know they're not just like a total flop.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for them to do that too. I mean, other than also having their own channel, but it's good for them to get on. I hate saying it like this because it sounds like I'm picking on you or calling your show lesser or whatever.
No, it's
But
small. It's small.
But okay, so it's better to get on a small channels and things like that, especially when you're first starting out. But I recommend it at any stage, honestly. But when you're first starting out, because this way, if you go on these smaller channels, you're able to develop more of a skill, a confidence of talking about things. And then if you do ever get on larger channels, it's not just like that deer in headlights thing. So I do recommend that a lot of the time. And I even try to send a lot of alternate creators your way, too. I don't know if many of them are knocking on the door, but I encourage them to do so, guys. But everybody else out there too, I recommend it as well. Not just your channel, but this is episode 8, and the whole point of hosting the host is essentially to point people to that direction of saying, here's a bunch of channels I've been on that I enjoyed being on. Most I've been on multiple times, and go talk to them. Go look at their channel, subscribe, check out what it's all about, check out how they are, and approach them about being on the show potentially. But never do the thing, because I've had this happen to me where some people are very presumptuous about, they reach out and they're just like almost inviting themselves to your house. It feels like, instead of just being like,
Yeah.
hey, if you have a minute or whatever, it'd be cool if I could come on your channel to talk about my book or something. And then some people they don't even say what they want to talk about, which I find is odd when they approach me ever. And I wonder if you have the same kind of experience, but they're just going like, can I book a day to come on your show? They don't even say like they've got a book, they want to talk about this, the yada yada, whatever it may be. And I'm like, that's odd to me. Don't do that. And I don't know, maybe I'm just more particular. But I want to be wined and dined for a second. Give me a paragraph of an introduction and what you want to talk about before I'm going to sit down for an hour or two and talk to you. Especially when it's out of the blue. I've never talked to you before. I've never had you on the show before, that kind of a thing. It's one thing if there's been, I've known you for 2-3 years. I've had you on the show several times, and you're just like, hey, do you have a day or so? I got something out, let's do it. But when you're first making that intro, I really recommend being polite. What a concept. And doing that. Do you get anybody like that just kind of is like, they walk through the door, they sit on the couch, they put their feet up on the table, and they're like, so yeah, I'm over here now. What do you want to talk about? And you're like, I didn't invite you. You invited yourself. Can you let me know what you would like to discuss?
Um, I would say in general, I haven't had that problem.
Lucky.
Because most people are pretty up, like nobody wants to come hang out. Everybody wants to promote a book. So it hasn't been it hasn't been that big of a deal for me. Um, Now I have had problems where people come on and I have absolutely I don't know anything about these people. I haven't seen, they'll just have like the coming soon page on Indiegogo, and
Mm.
it's like, okay, there's an image and like a one paragraph description. And I actually made a video about how to be a good guest on YouTube
Oh,
channels.
no way. Really? That's great.
Yeah, it's probably
It's needed.
year and a half ago. Very low view count, but
Well, more people should watch it, including
but
myself. I'll go check it out.
yeah, I mean there's I haven't had that issue. I did have one guy who sent me an email once, and he's like, "Hey, I need full quotes for my comics reviews. Do it, and I'll send you a PDF." It's like, first of all, why would I get the PDF after?
So pushy.
So I just ignored that person. I think that was the only
That
person that I
that is
ignored.
wait. They wanted the quote before they sent you the book.
Yeah,
That's
and the thing is, it's not like
that's weird.
if you had asked me like, "Hey, I need some quotes for this or that," I would have said, "Oh, okay, what do you got?" But I knew who this guy was by reputation, but never interacted with him anywhere. Never saw him in any like chats on streams or anything, and I never read his books. So, you
That's
know,
so strange. Yeah, I've never had that. I'm glad I've never had that. I don't even know how I'd respond to that. I'll be like, here's a quote. Uh, wow, you're really pushy. And there's a quote from me. Good luck with everything, and thanks for all the fish. Doug says, you promote the book by not looking greedy and desperate. We already know people need money. Chris says it's relatively easy when you're not greedy. And it's not even so much about greed as I just think it's about conversational etiquette in some way, shape, or form, but also just about not wanting to just blatantly use people. Even if at the end of the day that's what you're doing. It's like it's just a skeevy, scummy feeling when someone just comes in there that you've never even seen, never really talked to, or maybe you talked to them like once before years ago or something or whatever, and they just come along and they're essentially like, "Hey, can I use you? I hope to make money off of you," and that just feels like, ugh. So that's why I
yeah,
want people to actually want to go, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about my book. It's about this or whatever, or a topic if they want to talk about something and they're actually watching my show and they want to go, hey, I'm really into the paranormal or I'm into comics or I'm into this or that. We could talk about that on your show. I'd love if you have like a day to do that with me. I get it, but it's the people that kind of come along and it's this weird, awkward situation. And then I usually find those people are running around very resentful that no one's having them on their show. So it's like, this isn't to necessarily pick on those people. This is to try to help you to be more successful too, into getting on other people's shows, whether it's mine, Yang's, or anybody else's. And that's why I mentioned that. I think I've mentioned this several other times during the hosting the hosts show, which is all about, again, it's all about having people on here that are interviewers, and it's me interviewing the interviewer so that you guys at home can go, oh, I want to go on that show, or I want to watch that show. And again, if you do want to watch Yang's show, which is a good show, go subscribe to his channel. The link is in the description. So with that said, is there just something in you where you would like to selflessly promote people? Because, at least on my end, you're not getting paid. I'm not paying you. I'm not giving you anything for free. But you've always been gracious enough to generally even invite me first. As soon as like I put even sometimes a new campaign up or a mention of a new book, a day or so later, all of a sudden I've got a message from you, and you're really attentive about that. But what makes you the way that you are? Have you always been that way, that you want to help other people out?
yes.
Interesting.
Not in this way, I suppose, but there were a couple things. One is, again, it's all about me, and every time I get to talk to anyone, people who have already made lots of books, I get to learn something. Even though, yeah, it's mostly about them and promoting their book, but I get to learn something. And part of what I want to do too is, I know pretty much everyone who's been on the Hosting the Host segment has said it, but I really enjoyed Inside the Actors Studio, which was, it was a long form interview, one on one. I don't have the personality to really handle a lot of people. I'll have multiple people on if it's like, two people in a creative team, or if I know the people and I can sort of figure out the dynamics, but I don't have the energy like some of these shows to have 5 or 10 people. That's just too much for me. So I part of what I want to do is make a record. In the 80s, I loved reading Wizard magazine and some of the other ones where you would get a long form interview with John Byrne or Chris Claremont. You know, who's doing that now? Virtually no one. So I want someone to come back. I mean, even just talking about you, even in the time that I've known you, in 2019, you were primarily selling to bookstores, and our conversations were mostly about like distribution, how to get comics in more store locations. And now
Yeah.
you're pretty much, I don't want to say exclusively, but your vast majority of your sales are online as opposed to retailers. That's a pretty big shift in the industry. And just to see, how people change. And I've had Rini on a few times for Rini Draws, Irene Strakowski. And, I had her on the first time. She was like hoping to hit $10,000 on her first campaign, and with her second book, it was like 210 or something crazy like that. So it's really interesting to see how people develop. And that's another reason why I don't necessarily have a problem with smaller creators, because the vast majority, they're not going to hit the big time, but you never know who's going to be the next Jim Lee. I don't think the next Jim Lee is going to work for Marvel or DC. They're going to have totally independent books.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I can get them on early, then it, to me, it gives people who want to get in later, they can go and they can watch the interviews and see like, oh, well, how did this person think about things when they were starting? How has their perception changed once they had success? You got the more money, more problems issue. Like it's easy to ship 300 books. It gets a lot more complicated when you're shipping 3,000. You know, so for me, that's part of the motivation. And also, who else is going to help smaller people out with a long form show like I try to do? In my opinion, it's better to get your message out because you can clearly say what you want to say, assuming you've thought about something to say. And, as opposed to if you do go on shows with more people, and not to knock them, but, you're only going to have a small snippet to just get your stuff in real quick.
Yeah,
Another,
especially where a lot of the bigger groups of shows, it's usually kind of, let's see what's on the internet today.
in Confucianism, there's this idea of de, and de means moral authority, but it's not like Jesus came down and said, "Hey Pete, publish comics."
It works with
It's
the way the mic is reverbing today.
instead it's the idea of like, if a kid asked how to make comics, I would have more moral authority than that kid because
Yeah.
I kind of understand the industry. I've talked to a lot of creators. You have more moral authority than I did because you've been publishing stuff for years. And Jim Lee makes us all look like chumps. So, I'm trying to establish their bona fides. Like, they're not just somebody who slapped together a comic. It's someone who put thought into their characters, who, they drew this character sketch 10 million times before they started drawing panels for the book. And for me, that's important because if I'm going to spend money on a book, I want to know that there's some thought behind it. I want to know that there's some craft involved. And I think, especially going forward, as we sort of figure out where AI is going to fit in an art paradigm, I think that the craftsmanship is going to be the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree, because that's what's going to actually make the human side of it survive and thrive. And I think we're going to see, and I hate to say it like this because it does sound so mean, but we've seen a leveling of the playing field across the board to such an extent that the barrier to entry now is just, can you write words? Can you draw anything? And that's, while that's great that people feel confident enough that there's such a low barrier there. It's also lowered the standard of quality for a lot of people too, because the base median is basically saying, well, you don't got to have a whole hell of a lot of skill to compete here. Of course, if you're a naturally competitive type person, if you're someone that has your own set of standards, your own kind of compass as far as what quality is, you're going to still keep trying to achieve, because you're trying to beat yourself. You're trying to outbest
Yeah.
yourself, not necessarily everybody else around you. But a lot of people do at least base it off of, well, if I don't got to work that hard, because there's a ton of people coming in who aren't really that well versed and they're not experienced and the quality isn't there, it lowers all of the quality. So I think what we're going to see with a lot of that AI kind of stuff is maybe it's going to give everybody a kick in the butt again, and maybe make those people who should be competing harder and should be creating something better. Maybe it's going to start making them do that. And whether or not they choose to compete or not is going to be up to them. But it's something, and I think the only thing that's going to manage to make those creators thrive, and not just survive. But yeah, it's great that you're doing this. You're giving a platform to people out there, all their books. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and with the AI thing, we're in the middle of it now, but we've been in a very similar situation before. About 25 years ago, I was doing design. I opened my own design company in '97. I did a lot of web stuff, and I remember this one time I went to a company, and they're like, "Oh, thank God you're here. You know how to use it." We keep getting all these librarians, school librarians who know how to like use the mouse in Photoshop, and they're applying for things. And then I was teaching at a few universities, and but they had it separated to computer graphic design, and the old school design teachers all hated me with a passion because they didn't know how to use computers. They were still cutting out letters and pasting them up like in the old days. And to them, using Photoshop, using desktop publishing, drawing on a tablet, that's crazy. That's the devil's box right there. So I
They
heard a
weren't
lot
that
of,
wrong.
but I heard a lot of the same things that I'm hearing now, and yeah, it's different, but it's not that different. I think eventually all these people are going to get washed out of the industry. It's going to be devastating for the people who are trying to get in, and devastating for the people with no appreciable talent. You know, Todd McFarlane is never going to have a problem. Mark Silvestri won't have a problem, but it's the new guy who's going to have a problem because they have to compete against AI. But I think if people develop the talent enough, and they can show, like, there is that human element, right? And it's not even just the wonky fingers that AI seems to produce, but there's kind of a lifelessness behind it. But does it have some utility? Maybe.
Yeah, well, I could see people even using it as a referential device to even come up with a reference, and then they can draw the reference. I
Yeah,
could see that
yeah.
happening, because I don't think the storytelling capability is going to be there in terms of creating a comic in a competent, entertaining way. I could be absolutely and completely wrong, because this kind of technology always grows scarily exponentially. It just grows
Of
way
course,
too
yeah.
fast for us to even comprehend where it's going to go next. But I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, it's the same thing that happened, like I said, about leveling the playing field, but it's about the attitude that once that playing field's been leveled, now how do you compete in that? Do you just go and match the lowest possible thing, and maybe like the equivalent of, you see, like on eBay, and you want to list your item like a penny lower than the other lowest? Are you gonna go for just like the hair above or below of what you need to do, or are you going to go, you know what, no, I'm going to strive to do the absolute best that I can do and innovate in different ways, and I think we're going to see a lot of people do that. And so, as much as the AI thing, and I've had this conversation multiple times with people over the course of the past 2 weeks, because I think it's something that's on everybody's mind lately, so I don't want to repeat too many of the points I've made in those shows. But I really think we're going to see a lot of people competing, and it's going to give them a kick in the butt. And then I think we're going to see a lot of people that kind of are going to pick that low-hanging fruit. And I think in the end, it's gonna backfire, because a lot of people are going to build those houses out of sticks and straw, and we all know how that goes. And then eventually, you can't go 12 rounds with someone who's doing it the right way and taking the time to learn and has those skills for life. So
That's true. However, the one counter argument I would say is look at the quality coming out of Marvel and DC, and even Dark Horse and Boom
that's,
Studios
yeah,
and stuff.
the result of the low barrier to entry and corporate run industry.
And is it really much better than what AI is doing? So when Marvel comes out and says, we're going to do these all by AI, they're the same quality. It's like, well, yeah, they kind of are. But you're right, and I think one of the ways that people will work themselves out of this is coming back to start your own channel so you can say what you want about yourself. Go on other people's channels, especially when they invite you. And once people, Chris Rock had this story about his car broke down on the highway in LA, and nobody would stop to help him. So he just starts pushing his car, and once people saw that he was pushing his car, then they jumped out and helped him. And that's the thing. If people see you as a human being and they see that you're working at it, especially if they see a body of work, like, just post an image of what you're doing on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever, and a year later you're posting like similar things, but the quality should be a lot better, right? People like that. And
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're trying to improve yourself and you're showing that, look, I'm working hard to provide you with a good product, people are
Yep.
going to respond to that and people will back you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, AI is the ultimate meritless Mary Sue,
Yes.
you know, and most people would rather support that underdog, that person, like you said, putting the time and the work and the effort, and it's showing. And yeah, most people would rather support that person. Now, of course, the meritless Mary Sue comes across immediately and looks very experienced and looks like it actually is full of merit. And it already is at the tail end of putting the time and the effort, until that unravels pretty quickly. So all of that stuff, it's just fighting it necessarily isn't going to do anything, and fighting the people that make that stuff or get it out there or whatever, because I think people will have varying levels of success with it. That's just, if that's not the road you're willing or wanting to go down, I think it's going to be a complete waste of time. So instead, put your time and energy towards self improvement, and you'll see the returns quickly in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
We're gonna
And
take
getting
a. Oh,
Sorry,
what was
I
that
was just gonna
before
say,
we?
and getting yourself out there, learning how to, going on like I taught classes for 10 years or something. So when I started doing the interviews, it wasn't so difficult to me to do public speaking. So if you don't have that experience and you're real nervous, you just got to start practicing. It's a skill you really need to develop,
Yeah,
because you need to be your best advocate. That means you have to have your face out there.
absolutely. Yeah, there's no replacement for that. There's no AI for that. And when there is, hasta la vista. Well, we're going to take a quick 1 minute break. You're watching Comic Book Radio. This is episode 8 of Hosting the Hosts. My guest tonight is Yang Yan Zhao, and we'll be right back. Once we get back, I'm going to put the link in the chat in case anybody would like to join if you got a question or comment. I'm your host, Peter Samedi. Again, my guest tonight is Yang Yan Zhao. We'll be right back. 1 minute. Don't go anywhere. 1 minute. 1 minute. All right, welcome back to Comic Book Radio. This is episode 8 of Hosting the Hosts. I've got the link right here in the chat. If you guys want to join, feel free to join with a question or comment for my guest tonight. Not necessarily for me, for my guest. And so there it is. Don't be shy. All right, so going down a different road with the conversation tonight, and leaving the AI conversation. When you have guests that you want to have on your show, what kind of advice can you give to them if they're relatively new? Is there anything that you think are the basics that they absolutely have to have or should be doing?
Yeah, so number one, you should have a press kit. And a press kit ideally would, if you're really new, you should have like maybe 5 pages of your book done. You should have any other relevant art, like for example, if you have character sheets, just model poses of the characters, small description on there. You should have 1 page that's minimum 1 paragraph where you talk about your book, like what's the story, this and that. What's the plan? Like this is a 1 graphic novel planned to be about however many pages, whatever. And then there should be 1 more paragraph that describes you and your history slash your whoever's working on it for you. So if it's, let's say you're the writer, right, and you're not really collaborating with an artist as much as you are hiring an artist, then I think it's fine to have most of that about you, and then just 1 sentence. I have so and so doing pencils, colors, probably Eric Weathers for lettering, and then if you are doing it more as a collaboration, then you should have a little bit more about each, and it's fine if it's your first book. You could start off with, I started reading comics in 19 whatever, 2000 whatever. This book really made a difference to me. I love this guy. I was inspired, and there you go. Just a little bit. Like don't write me 10 pages. I'm not going to read 10 pages. 1 page most. One or 2 paragraphs about the book.
Yeah.
1 small one about you.
There you go.
That's one thing. If you have previous works, and you could send a PDF of something you've done before, that would be appreciated, because if I don't know you and I don't know your work, sometimes it's like, oh, so do you like things and stuff? And I just have to try to, pull something out of whatever you say, which sometimes has gone horribly wrong.
On the show itself, you've had like a guest where it's just going down in flames.
Oh my God, yeah. He was on your show, I can't remember if it was one of your 10-minute segments or whatever.
You don't need to name names.
I'm not going to name names, but I will say that after I was done, a friend called me up and he was like, dude, are you okay? That was like watching a hostage video.
Wow, okay, wow.
That video is no longer up. I think that's the one interview I was like, no, that's just bad. I've had others that were rough, but not as bad as that. Ask me after, I'll tell you. Okay. And then I would say into giving advice, I have given advice to some people who they have industry experience, either in writing or in art, but they've never done this before. So I've advised them things like, hey, if you thought this interview went well and you liked what we said, clip it. I don't care if you clip the show. Put it on your Instagram, put it on your Twitter. People don't like to brag about themselves, and there's a fine line between I'm here to promote myself and how awesome my channel is and how awesome my books and everything are. Between that and just brag. So it's much easier and much it's considered socially more acceptable. If I ask you a question, then it's fine if you're bragging about yourself. So, cut it up. I ask the question, you say, whatever it is you said that you thought is really important about your book. And that helps the message get out to other people. And then hopefully somebody, with a bigger channel will see it, who has a larger audience, and they'll say, "Hey, I really like the way you answered that question. It sounded pretty good. Why don't you come on?"
Yeah, I agree. That's a good way to do it. And there's a lot of people that don't really go about it that way. Maybe they don't know how to do it or whatever it may be. I've never really tried that out. I've seen other people clip me on interviews, but I've never really clipped myself and put it out there. But
Sure.
yeah, that's a
Especially
good way to showcase some of this stuff.
yeah, especially if everybody can just start a YouTube channel. If you don't want to put the time and the effort into hosting your own thing, doing your own videos, that's fine. Just take clips of other people and put it on your channel for
That's
shorts.
a good idea. Yeah, that's a really
You
good
know,
idea for people
yeah.
that aren't really running their own channel necessarily in terms of getting on there to produce any kind of content, but they're doing different things on other people's channels, interviews or whatever it may be. Yeah, that is a good idea.
Yeah, and generally for an hour-long show, you'll have maybe 5 topics at most. So you could just you should sort of know. It's not like you've got 100 different topics you have to weave your way through to figure out where that segment was. It's really not that hard.
Yeah. That's that man. I never thought about that before. That is a really good idea for people to do something like that. I do encourage though people that if you're gonna hit the YouTube thing and do that kind of thing, starting your own channel is a good way to go about it in terms of just finding your own comfort zone, even to talk about this stuff. And you don't have to be super technical or have great production value or whatever. I find a lot of people that I ever give that kind of advice to, they're like, well, I don't know how to do that or the other thing or video editing or whatever. And I'm like, you don't have to just have if you've got a camera, if you got access to a camera and a microphone helps and stuff like that to sound better. But you could just start. You've got a phone with a camera or whatever, and you want to just put out a video and get used to talking about your book or about something that's on your mind or whatever that you want to share with your potential audience. Do that, but YouTube's not for everybody, but it's
Sure.
one of those things where if you do plan on going that route, it's better to do that and kind of test the waters than it is to go on your show or anybody else's show, and then that's kind of where you test the waters, and most people just aren't. I don't think they're aware of the nerves sometimes that kick in all of a sudden, and then it's kind of like when you're driving for the first time and you're just like, well, I don't know what to pay attention to. Do I pay attention to the interviewer? Do I pay attention to, like, I see me over there on the screen? Do I pay attention to the chat and what they're saying? And so you're looking everywhere and you're doing all these and you're freaking out. And I've seen it happen in real time, especially when I did the open mic show, where a lot of people would come on and it would be like, they don't know what the hell they were even there for. And I'm like, okay, you've got 5 minutes to talk about your book. And it's just like, you could tell that they're like, book? Like, what book? And it's like the book you're here to talk about. But then you do it long enough, and then all of a sudden it's the same thing again, like driving, and you're just going where you got to go. You can have a conversation. You're doing this. You're thinking about that. And you just drove there, and you don't even remember what the hell you did to specifically drive there because you've done it so often. So it's like second nature. So getting comfortable with it is a big part of it, and that happens over time and repetition and everything else that comes with that. But it's well worth it, I think. If you're going to pursue that direction. If not, come up with some other kind of plan of how you're going to promote. Gray says, I've got to do more videos soon. I'm trying to crank out some more pages for us for the Vampire Squad.
Nice.
AL says, people don't really want to know what I think. Maybe they do. Every single person ever who says anything like that, chances are people really want to know what you think. What do you think, AL? Oh, man. AL needs a YouTube channel. Doug says, I do not wish to drink whiskey or harm you. Who are you harming, Doug? Oh man. All right. So again, if you guys want to join the show, if you want to pop on in, we got about 10 minutes or so left. There's the link. I'm putting it right there in the chat. Any questions or comments here for my guest tonight? Feel free to stop on in. The last thing that I think is going to probably eat up the last 10 minutes or so would be this. Now, as someone who's running a YouTube channel, and I'm guessing you're someone who appreciates creativity, because why would you have creative individuals on your channel if you didn't? Are you creative as well? Are you putting anything out there? Do you got something in the works in any capacity?
Yes. So originally I was working on a comic, and then I ended up switching to a Dungeons and Dragons campaign guide for what I like to call poor thinking. So what happened was the comic I'm working on is it's a fantasy book, and so like if King Cricket, if you want a location or something, you could Google Map it, and you could get reference photos and this and that. But when you're doing fantasy, everything's all in your head. So I was starting to forget things and confuse myself. I was like, I don't know, I got to keep a pretty accurate Bible. And then when I was doing that, I was like, well, there's really not that much difference between this and a campaign guide for a tabletop role playing game. So I started writing it more like that. And that was a horrible decision because it was much more work than I thought it would be.
Well, it's too late now.
Well, yes. So I started, I guess I started that in 2019. And, I have had several absences from YouTube. It's mostly for work stuff. When I started the channel, I had my own clinic. So I have lots of free time during the day to make videos, do this, do that, to write, to work on my own things. And then took another job where it was like I was working like 6 to 6, and then the pandemic hit. So I was working 6 to 6, and I have to see patients privately in the evening too because they couldn't get any medical treatments. So that slowed me down. And then I had a little bit of cancer, some family issues, and I took a year off. I just came back from that. Hopefully, that
wow.
will be the last break.
Well, God bless you, man.
Oh, thanks. It wasn't that bad. But I moved across country. I was actually trying to get Wolf and Batsy creator Brian Both on, and it ended up that we were both moving from the same city to the same state at the same time, so it never happened.
Wow. Small world.
I know. But one of these days I'll get him on. So I've been working on that. I was hoping to get it, start crowdfunding in October, but I think it's going to have to wait until next year. I've got a campaign guide for D&D 5th edition. Don't worry, I'm not going to go all reeny on you. Where it's a complete guide from levels 1 to 10, its own world. It's going to be fantastic. I've got a lot of great artists that I already have products from. Just got to really get a cover art. And then once I crowdfund it, I think it'll take about 1 more year after that. I'm doing a lot of the artwork myself, a lot of the maps, some of the illustrations, and then about another year for beta testing. So once I launch the campaign and it closes, there's going to be PDFs where you can start playing it, and then I'll get more feedback as to different game mechanics, what people like, people don't like, and there will be some minor changes. But I'm just about finished with the main part of it. I remember when I started, I thought, man, it's going to be a lot. I'm going to write like 100 pages. It's going to be crazy. And I saw somebody else's campaign, and they're like, our book is 450 pages. And I thought, geez, overachiever, way to ruin it for the rest of us.
Wow.
And now I look at it and I'm like, yeah, 450 might be a little light. So it's...
How many pages are you up to?
It's hard to say. Once you get the art and the maps, it'll probably be that. I'm close to 200. I would have to add it up.
Wow.
But just with the words. But I've been working with an editor, so...
That's great, man.
It's getting there. No, Alex, I think you mean not enough. Plus, the book has to have tons of awesome art. So one thing when you look at a project, if you want it to succeed, you have to find what is working, what is selling. So you can either say, well, I'm going to go against that, or I'm going to go with it. I found an industry survey from a couple of websites that sell games in PDF form, and they surveyed their user base, like 10,000 people or something, and 64% said they would buy the book just on the art alone. So, you got to have some awesome art.
Wow. Are you approaching artists, or do you already have people on board?
Yeah, I had Peter Gilmore. He did some for me. I had Rod Looper from, if anyone knows, Black Tiger.
Yeah, nice.
Um, he's done that. Oh, he did work on Bancroft's newest one too for the Lucid.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, and then I had this guy from Malaysia. Oh my God, Pete, this guy was amazing. He was like a cross between Frazetta and Bernie Wrightson with just a teeny touch of manga flair in there.
What do you know? What his remember his name?
Yeah, it was Concore something, but he's disappeared.
Oh
He's like off in the ether somewhere. And it's like, no, why'd you do that? You could have been top of the industry.
man.
So I got
Huh.
5 out of the 10 images I contracted him for, but
Oh
they're good stuff.
wow. Really nice, man. Sounds good. Let's see. Wayne says I'm looking for 1 or 2 E, but sounds like you've got some killer artists. There you go.
Well, I am hoping in the future. So when the book is released, 5E, that's all I'm promising. But also, I'm going to have a website, putting that together now. So if you buy the physical copy of the book, you will also get membership to the website. And on the website, I'm going to be selling maps, and every month there's going to be one shot. So for people who aren't familiar with tabletop gaming, a one shot is like you and your buddies are going to get together for 3 to 6 hours, just this one time, just this one game, and that's it. A campaign is like you're going to be getting together multiple times following some kind of a storyline.
Oh, okay.
So the one shots are all going to be in world, and they're going to be at different points in different places that we don't get to see as much during the main campaign.
Do you have a website right now set up, or are you working on that?
I am working on that. Hopefully, it's going to be done by the beginning of October. And I'm going to have some great people. It's not just going to be me. I've got a guy, Bill Selvey. He used to work for Gary Gygax writing modules for D&D, Advanced D&D. He's writing 3 of the modules for me. And so in the future, I am hoping to make PDFs of the campaign guide for 1E and then Pathfinder. And if you do Pathfinder, that also means 3.5E. But when that's done, then I will finally get to the comic book, which is pretty much the same story in the same world, but a little bit different. When you're doing like tabletop role playing games, like everybody wants to play an elf, or they want to be a dwarf lady so they can have a long beard. I don't really like your dwarf ate my elf in my fiction. For me, I'm more into like Robert E. Howard, where they're all people. They're different ethnicities, different backgrounds, but they're all people as opposed to different species. Or if there is a different species, it's going to be really different and really alien to this population.
Man, well, it sounds like you've got a lot of work cut out for you, and holy smokes. All right, man. Well, we're going to be wrapping up this show right now. Before we do, I just want to let you guys know on the King Cryptid campaign, we've got the New Moon special up, and the New Moon special here is the Old Man of the Mountain magnet, and you can kind of see the face against my hand there. And this is a $3 magnet. It's a 3 by 3 inch magnet. And this is on the campaign right now on either Alterna site or on Indiegogo site. Again, $3, free shipping worldwide, so you guys can go pick that up. A bunch of you guys picked it up today. Thank you very much. We are currently at 481 backers. I gotta update that. So we're 19 backers away from the 500 backer bonus being unlocked, which is a signed 6x9 print. And then also, you guys might notice the King Cryptid patches. These arrived today, and these are going to be up on the campaign in September as New Moon and Full Moon specials. So we got the New England Cryptid Research Organization patch, and these are all Velcro backed. And then we got the King Cryptid logo patch. It's a 3-inch circle and then a 3x2. So check out the campaign if you haven't already. If you want that magnet, go for it. It's actually a landmark too within New Hampshire, but it's also a character in the book. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. You guys coming here tonight. It was a good show, fun show, and Yang, man, it was a great show. It was quite odd with you being interviewed tonight. Considering 4 or 5 times I've been on your channel, and you've been great enough to interview me. It was fun getting to pick your brain tonight and have you do most of the talking.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, just disappointed we didn't get to the cryptid talk.
Yeah, I'll have to have you back on for that. We'll have to do a dedicated comic book radio show for that, and talk about cryptids and whatnot, and some of the things you've seen. I feel like that's going to be a whole show. We'll have to do that around like September, October.
Oh,
a little bit more of the spooky season time for that. But everybody, go check out Yang's channel. He's got that link. Well, I got that link in the description. But he's got a good channel with a lot of great guests on there. Again, if you're a creator looking for someone to go on, I highly recommend talking to Yang about that. And then also, if you're out there and you want to check out a good show that has solid guests and good interviews, go subscribe. If you're not subscribed already. But again, thank you guys very much. And tomorrow on the channel at 9 o'clock Eastern, I've got Graham Nolan on. I'm going to be picking his brain a bit about what it takes to have such endurance in the comic industry and be so versatile. And also, I want to get some fitness tips as well from Graham. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. But that's the show for tomorrow night. We got a bunch of other people on this week too, and I'll be getting to them during the course of the week, and you'll see what's what. I like to keep a little bit of a surprise. But everybody have a wonderful night. We'll see you tomorrow. And Yang, thank you again, man, and all the best.
Thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thank you for being here, man. All right, everybody, have a great night. See you tomorrow.
Night, everyone.